I see a drive, I see a desire to go all out. We are the master of finding the shortcut. As a country.
So what are the indicators that you see when it comes to a good workplace?
How positive are you speaking about the company that you work for? How willing are you to want to go the extra mile for your company? And how likely are you willing to stay?
Have you fired people in your career? And what are the blunders that you see on the part of young professionals?
On average, a male Pakistani becomes an adult when he's 38 years old. And I go, how is that possible?
So the people who play games to get selected, you gotta help them.
In order to be most successful in our games, I think it's very, very important that you're... Hi, I really hope that you enjoyed this podcast on the hustle with Mahan. And of course myself. So if you do like it, she's got some amazing content. Do click on the link to subscribe. And I'm sure even more interesting people will come on. Enjoy.
Hello Paul, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
So you have to tell everybody how do we pronounce your surname? Paul
Keijzer.
Keijzer. Okay.
It's almost as the Pashtun Keijzer, correct? That is is my equivalent.
Oh, okay. And how is the journey to the Kurangi here?
The journey has been good. It's part of Karachi, correct?
Yeah. And how long you've been in Karachi?
Oh, it's been now since 2003. So a good 22 years.
How much of Urdu you have learned up to now?
Oh, I'm glad we asked this question at first because that will be the most embarrassing one. Yeah. So apart from food and you using words that you're not allowed to use, otherwise my Urdu is absolutely non-existent. So I have to apologize up front.
Learn Galian so that if somebody call you names, you would understand.
Yeah. So I always say if you call me names, do it in Saraiki or in Punjabi. Otherwise, I understand it.
And you're loving the food.
Obviously, otherwise I can't sustain myself. Correct.
What's your favorite dish, by the way? Out of syllabus question, but what has been your favorite dish up till now in Karachi?
To be honest, I'm not a big foodie. Yeah, I know that is not a good way to start this conversation in Pakistan. I'm not a good foodie, but to be honest, any of the Pakistani dishes is fine. The only thing I don't eat are organs. So brains or liver or kidneys is not something that I am enjoying.
Okay. But you like biryani, you like nahari.
Yeah. All the famous Karachi dishes are fine.
Okay. And you originally belong to?
I'm Dutch. Yeah, so I come from the Netherlands, but I left Holland in 1997. So that's a long time ago.
What makes you stay in Pakistan?
The opportunity. Yeah. So what made me stay was the opportunity. I always say I can meet the Prime Minister and get shot in the same day. Yeah, everything in between. So everything is possible. Yeah. And then of course I met my wife, and then we've got kids, and then I became a Desi Gora.
Desi Gora. I love the term. Okay. So I would like to know your story very quickly, and of course we'll move towards the talent game story as well.
Yeah, that will be interesting for many students.
Yeah. And of course your story and talent game story are somewhere interconnected. So let's begin.
Okay. Well, my story started as an HR professional for Unilever after my graduation. So I spent 18 years with Unilever. So after 9 years in Europe and in the Netherlands and in England, I then moved to China. From China, I moved to Vietnam. And from Vietnam, I became the VP HR for Unilever Pakistan in 2003. So that was for a couple of years. And then early 2007, I set up a company called Engage Consulting, which is still there. And that's primarily focused on, obviously, engagement and helping companies to improve the engagement levels of their staff, organizational development, but primarily leadership development. So I do have a specific niche around leadership development through our coaching, facilitation of leadership teams, or leadership development programs. And then over time, we developed a number of technology solutions around that. And then in 2017, the Talent Games was born, and now I'm running two companies as the CEO of both Engage Consulting and the Talent Games.
And what was your purpose or aim behind forming the talent games?
So the talent games was all about. I was already experimenting with gamification within the HR space. I did that with Xiao Niazi, who was my co-founder of the talent games. And then at the end of 2016, I met Faiza Savul, who's now working for August Leadership. And she was the talent acquisition manager for ICI. And she said, Paul, I've got a problem. And the problem is, over the last couple of years, the employer brand of ICI has eroded. The number of candidates I'm able to attract is significantly less, and the quality is getting worse. So can you help? And because we were already working with gamification, we thought, well, let's see how we can transform the whole recruitment process for graduates. So instead of the standard milk round of companies going to universities, ask them to fill in a couple of forms, then do a first screening of resumes, then do a short assessment online or paper test, and then do the interviews. It was very boring and certainly not relevant for, at that time, millennials, and now with Generation Z. So we said, let's completely change that, and let's create an experience that candidates would like to be part of and enjoy, and at the same time showcase the company for what it is to work there. And so we started this whole social media driven campaign to attract talent. We then asked people to play a game to assess them as a first step. And the whole idea was specifically not to, because almost all companies at that time limited themselves for the top 3 universities, correct? If you were working,
They still do.
Well, not with this solution. Yeah, so many still do, but by using a technology solution, it doesn't matter which university you come from. Yeah, so
True.
it allowed everybody across the spectrum, across the country, to start at a level playing field. Obviously, they still look at the score, so therefore it doesn't matter which university you come, you have to pass the assessment. But at least you have got a chance. Yeah, whereas I think in the past
At
you
least
didn't
we
have
have the access.
You've
now.
got the access. Yeah, you have an opportunity to try. Whereas in the past, I don't think you even had an opportunity to try. And we've taken away this whole process of people getting 1,000 resumes, and instead of looking, okay, let's only look at these 3 universities and discard all the 800 from others. At least now recruiters don't have to look at the name of the resume, don't have to look at gender, don't have to look at names, and all that bias is taken out of the process. So that's what I'm actually quite proud of, in trying to create a level playing field for candidates to enter companies. And I think we've been quite successful in doing that.
So what was the biggest challenge while creating this venture and also promoting this, or let's say getting clients onboarded?
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge was technology. Yeah, I at that time I hadn't got a clue what technology code was. Yeah, so me and Shao were both HR professionals. We didn't have a founder who was a techie, and as a result, I think we had 4 different outsourcing partners in the first 3 years. And then I brought my own team in, and the first team was not good, the second team was not good, and only I think the last 3 or 3.5 years I've got it right. Yeah, so it took a long time to actually get the team right. So that was the biggest challenge. The other challenge in terms of getting clients, first of all, I think through the context that I've built over the last 20 years, it helped introduce.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still feel that there's a lot of, I wouldn't call it resistance, but certainly in the beginning, there was a lot of 1 or 2 companies that wanted to innovate, but innovation is difficult, correct? Because
And not just innovation, I think they will have to allocate a certain budget for that, and so many people are just not.
They do, but to be honest, I think we can prove to companies that it is actually more effective, cheaper, and faster.
Or maybe the founders are not progressive enough to understand the importance of this particular thing.
Yeah,
and
so I think people are very comfortable in the way that they've been doing things. But to be honest, we've been very successful. We have about 100 clients across the world. Yeah, so our most proudest moment was when the World Cup, the Football World Cup organizers in Qatar in 2022 selected us as their gamification partner.
Lovely.
So we were completely this small team from Karachi doing a project for Qatar World Cup,
Wow.
in which we created a completely custom game showcasing the Qatar World Cup, and at the same time assessing 300,000 candidates. 300,000. That's mind-boggling. Still mind-boggles me. In 3 months' time, in order to get their 20,000 volunteers selected.
And how many team members do you have, by the way?
My total company is about 35 people, and
35, okay.
about 15 of them are in the technology team. 7 of them are in the design team.
And all of these are Pakistanis?
Absolutely, I'm the only Gora, or Desi Gora now.
Okay, so I want to talk about talent in Pakistan before we move to other questions. So you said that you have done some great international projects. You still have international clients, and all the talent you have right now is from Pakistan. So that shows that we have great talent here.
Oh, we have, absolutely.
And there's no doubt about that. But what are the things that you... So I want to know the strengths and the weaknesses both of the talent that we have in Pakistan. So pehle to bataएं, what are the strengths that you see in Pakistani talent which is rarely seen in other countries?
Great question. So on the strength side, what I really I see a drive, I see a desire, I see a willingness to go all out. There's a very little cynicism. There's very much desire to prove yourself, to take challenging roles, to do stuff. I see that's one big thing. The other one is creativity. Yeah, I think we're masters of doing. We're the master of the shortcut. Let me put it that way. Yeah, which has got a negative as well, which we find it very difficult to be disciplined and following processes. But we are the master of finding the shortcut as a country. As a country, that is.
I understand that.
And so therefore, I think we are very good in finding the solutions. I think where
Jugaad. So for the solution, you use this word called jugaad.
Okay, there you are. So it's, on the other side, I think it's all about exposure. Yeah, limited exposure to professional corporate environments. That's one, and to processes as a whole. Yeah, so I think that is the main drawback.
Okay.
Certainly, if you want to deal with international clients, yeah. So we have Nestle in the whole of Asia is our client. And being able, or we are now speaking to clients in the US, we're speaking to clients in Europe, and training people to be able to converse, as well as to service clients abroad is I think the biggest challenge there.
And the kind of talent that you have right now in your firm, of course they would have gone through a certain training.
Yeah, and it's primarily to do with experiences. Also, the team that I now have has been with me for about after a number of stuttering starts. I think the team that I now have primarily with the key core team is about 4, 5, 6 years with me. So obviously they live, breathe, and eat everything that we do. And I
want to ask the question that so these 35 people all are from like those top 2-3 universities, or you have
not at
diversity?
all. So I'm very, very excited with the diversity in my team. So it's not just diverse. Well, the only diversity that I don't have that they're all young. Yeah, so I think the eldest is 30. I think the rest is all below. So they're all young, very young team. But yes, very diverse in terms of where they come from. Very diverse even in terms of religious affiliation. I'm very, very diverse in terms of gender. So I've got at least half of my team, including the technology team, is female.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
good.
interesting.
And I'm actually proud that we've created a work environment where they feel very comfortable as a software developer, as a Python developer, as a designer to be part of the organization.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we'll move towards a question where I want to understand. Of course, you do these award shows, and you of course give the award to which is the best workplace here in Pakistan. Apart from the criteria thing, I want to understand from your experience, what are the metrics that you consider, or let's say what are the indicators that you see when it comes to a good workplace?
Yeah.
Or a place that is like wonderful working for you?
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been doing these best place to work surveys and awards galas since 2008. Engage Consulting was built on the concept of engagement, so it's something that is probably closest to my heart, certainly in terms of my experience.
Which happens in October.
In October this year, we have the 2025 Best Place to Work Awards. We do it every 2 years.
Yeah, and there are around 200 companies participating in the award show.
Yeah, so far we have 225 nominations, and they will probably move towards 250. So what we do is we do two things. We actually go to the employees of those companies and ask them 50 questions. And on the basis of the score of those employees, we then establish an engagement score of that company. And at the same time, we ask people, which company would you most prefer to work for outside your current one?
How do you ask that? Like from general audience?
No, exactly the same 100,000 people that do the engagement survey. We ask them also a question: if you don't work for your current company, which company would you prefer to work for?
Okay, cool.
So I've got 100,000 data points in terms of
and
people
from
having
where
an
these
opinion.
100,000 people come?
From these 250 companies.
Okay.
So 200 across 15 different industries, small companies, big companies, medium-sized companies.
So the participants basically, the participant companies have this survey done from their own employees, and the employees do not have a choice to choose their own company, but they choose the other company. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So then you've got 100,000 people say, well, and we don't just ask about who would you like to work for, we also ask them, how well do you know that company? Yeah, so we then give a weighted average in terms of the employer brand of that company, and then the two combined will then make we then rank them of the two combined scores, and of course the ones with the highest combined score is then declared a best place to work.
What are the other things what are the major things that shows this is the best workplace?
Yeah, so our the framework that we use consists of 4 different elements that then drives employee commitment. And when I talk about commitment, I'm talking about 3 different things. How positive are you speaking about the company that you work for? Advocacy. How willing are you want to go the extra mile? Yeah, so that's for your company. And how likely are you willing to stay? Yeah, and then we also do what we call a net promoter score, which is then on a scale from 0 to 10. How willing are you to recommend this company to somebody else?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah? And so these are the final output of whether you have a sense of belonging, whether you're aligned with where the company is going, whether you feel that you can grow with the company and what you get back from the company, and whether you've got confidence in the future of the company. So those 50 questions then get the engagement score. 70% of the awards is that, and 30% is then the employer brand, external employer brand, and then combined makes you a best place to work.
Wow, wonderful.
And that's for 2. So we are now in the process of onboarding 250 companies, doing 250 surveys for 500 people times 50 questions. So we get about 5 million data points. Yeah. So.
Wow. Who won the award last year, by the way?
Sorry?
Who won the award last year?
So for a large number of years, actually 5, it was 5 editions in a row. DHL was the best place to work.
Which one?
DHL. The logistics
Oh.
company. Yeah. So and
I can see that.
Yeah, and they've
I
been.
can see that on LinkedIn right
Yeah,
now.
and it's not just in Pakistan. Actually, they win similar awards in all kinds of other countries as well. But they have been my role model in terms of best place to work in Pakistan.
So are there like other awards also? Is it like the only award best workplace?
So then we do best place to work. We do it per industry. We do specific category award. Best place to work for female. Best place to work for Generation Z. Best place to work for contractual employees. Best place to work for etc. etc.
Let's launch one for Generation Alpha also.
Alpha, are they working yet? Or?
I have to check. They'll start working in a year or 2 years, I think.
Or that's probably the
Like-
best childcare in a company.
It should be one major thing, of
There
course,
you
because
are.
anybody who's not, offering this daycare thing, I'm like, dude, you're missing on
Yeah,
something. Because
you're
a lot
missing
of
out.
women then leave after marriage if
Absolutely.
they do not have
Yeah.
this daycare
Yeah.
facility. And I'm a big supporter of that. I'm not married, but I'm a big supporter of that.
To be honest, so in my small company, I can't. We don't have size enough to provide childcare on premise, but certainly.
But you believe that daycare is something that just,
Oh yes, and so how so we can't afford. We can't. It's not about affording. It's about not being able to logistically organize it. So one of my staff members, one of my female staff members, my colleague, a year ago had delivered a baby, and the first couple of months after coming back to work, she actually brought the baby to work in the office. Yeah, and it was actually great. Yeah, so the baby was in a maxi cozy sitting next to her, and whenever she had to feed, that happened. But the whole company enjoyed.
So, but even if you do not have daycare, but you allowed the lady
Exactly.
to bring the
Of
kid
course,
along with
of
her,
course.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
Of course.
So, Paul, have you fired people in your career?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. Certainly in the first part of my career when I was in Europe. I think even in my very first job as a personnel officer, as it was called back at that time, I was part of a large restructuring. So yes, it's been part and parcel of the role. One of the reasons that I actually left the Netherlands and wanted to come to Asia was about growth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the conversation in Europe is all about efficiency, reduction, compression, whereas the conversation in Asia was all about growth and opportunity. Which is of course 10 times more exciting. So one of the main reasons that I really jumped on the opportunity to go to China in '97, which is a very long time ago, or Vietnam for that matter in '99, or Pakistan for that matter in 2003, was all about the opportunity of growth. But yes, even then.
What was the most difficult time? I want to know a story. That the most difficult time you were doing maybe the layoffs or the termination or any such process where you faced difficulty. Also, you don't know Urdu, and you'd be you were heading HR in like different companies when it comes to Pakistan. So you dealing with the candidates would have been, or the employees or ex-employees would have been very different and must be challenging. I want to know a story.
No, so I don't think it's so much challenging, because certainly in Unilever as the HR director, I think English was the language that was being spoken. So that was not a difficulty in the conversation.
Emotionally challenging.
Yeah, so I think for me the whole process of firing people or holding people accountable is depending very much in terms of the intent that you have. Yeah, and to be honest, my intent is always to see how I can help that individual move on, because sometimes, and I have many examples even in my own company, that you come to a stage where a person where you've noticed that the person doesn't fit. Yeah. And you see that not only in terms of his performance, you see that in terms of motivation, you see that in terms of other things. And it's all about then helping that individual realize that maybe this is not the best fit, and then provide support in other opportunities that might fit better. So I'm actually quite proud of the people that, and for example, I had this conversation about a year ago, about 15 months ago, where there was specifically around, as an organization, we had moved beyond the opportunity for that person to add value to the organization. Yeah, and that person was very close to me. He was one of my most senior members of my team, and he had a great track record, and he had of a tremendous value to the company. But I had to come to the conclusion that either for the company and for him, going forward, it would better to part. Yeah. So having that conversation, certainly with the person that you're close with, is not easy. Yeah. But I think it's about the intent, the heart that you show, the explanation that you give, and then the support that you give a person to understand, accept, and then find a next role. So I was able to help this individual find a better paying role in a larger company, and he's now grateful for me having for having terminating him. Yeah. So and I think that's where the secret lies.
Did the HR role actually made you emotionally strong? You believe that?
No, because
you were already emotionally strong. Or you said?
I don't know that. That's for others. That's for others to find. But it's you can't. If for one part you can't deny the reality of the situation. Yeah, it's more like a doctor, correct? If a doctor, you have to accept that somebody has a disease. It's all about what can you do to help. Same here. The reality is that the company goes through a certain restructuring. They have to make certain decisions. The reality is that the decision has been made. Then the next step is all about how you implement decision. What kind of process do you use? What kind of emotional intelligence do you show to the individual? How can you help that individual? And how much, I think the key often is how much dignity you give the individual in that situation. And secondly, how much control are you still going to give that individual? Yeah,
what has been the biggest lesson for you when it comes to emotional intelligence?
The emotional intelligence.
What has been the biggest lesson?
I think for me, the biggest lesson as a consultant, as an HR professional, is to be genuinely interested in another person and asking questions. And then subsequently listen to the response with intent. Yeah. Unfortunately, as Pakistanis, we're not very good in terms of listening, authentic listening. Yeah, we listen to respond rather than listen to understand.
Very good.
Yeah, understand the difference.
Yeah. I do.
So when you ask me when you say something, I'm already informing in my head an opinion on how I can better to you, rather than me to understand where you come from and then build on that.
Lovely.
And in corporate Pakistan, I've seen everybody's extremely good in responding of listening to respond. Very few are good in listening to understand.
Amazing. So abhi aapne ye bataya, and I would like to know more on, let's say, blunders. So this was one thing that you have a great lesson when it comes to emotional intelligence that every other HR person or even a non-HR person should learn from you, right? But what are the blunders that you see HR professionals do and you'd like to advise them, don't do this?
Very interesting. Two things come to mind. Yeah. One is that I feel that my HR colleagues are not curious enough.
Yes.
Yeah? And that can have many different parts. Curious in terms of understanding the person that sits opposite them, and they become too transactional. Yeah. So I think it's about curious in terms of understanding the individual. But in order to succeed in HR, you have to combine two things. You have to combine people insights with business insights. So you have to be curious in the person that you're working with, but you also have to be as curious about the business that you operate in. You really have to understand why are we doing what we're doing. You have to understand the processes. How do we make money? How do we lose money? So I think that curiosity in terms of understanding people and understanding business is something that I really would like to encourage my HR colleagues to do more of.
Lovely. And what are the blunders that you see on the part of young professionals? Like the talent, the employees, the candidates, basically.
I think it's what I see most of the time where things go wrong is that people have bloated expectations. Yeah. Where they don't take responsibility for their own career, their own actions, etc., etc. Where people often blame others for the situation that they're in. So I remember one of my very first leadership team meetings in Unilever Pakistan was a presentation from a research company on the consumer profile of Lipton consumers. And one of the things that really struck me was that they made a presentation and they said that on average, a male Pakistani becomes an adult when he's 38 years old. And I go, how is that possible, 38 years old? And then they explained, well, that is on average the year in which his father passes away. And then the responsibility is being moved from the father to the son. And that's a mind blower for me. Yeah, coming from the West, that's something that is completely difficult to understand or comprehend at that time. Now I do, of course, understand it. So this whole idea of taking responsibility is not something that is in our genes or in our cultural norms, because it's always our father that was to blame.
True.
In this, often in a corporate environment, certainly in SAID companies, it's always the bosses or the SAID that is to blame. Even if I always say is that the most important decision in your life, who to marry, is outsourced to another party. Yeah. So we're not very good in taking responsibility for
insight.
Decisions. Yeah. And I think that is throughout somebody's career. That is also often then also the hindering factor, that we don't take responsibility for our own career and expect others either to take the difficult decisions or to give us things.
Such wonderful answers that I'm getting right now. I need to ask more questions. Okay. So, very good insights, by the way, very good insights. So what are the myths that you see about HR people?
Myths
about HR. Of course, that people are just considering is true and is not true.
To be honest, most of those myths are to do with the experience and the quality of the HR professional. Yeah. So there's a lot of myths around HR is all around only administration and not thinking about people, or not understanding the business and not adding value. But I think it's all about the quality and the experience that an individual has. And I know HR professionals and leaders that have an outsized influence and impact on their organization. One, because they understand the business really, really well and they can hold their ground in any business conversation with any business leader. And they understand the people that they work with and the culture of the organization really, really well. And then you see that they are able to make a significant impact. But again, you have to be, like I said earlier, you have to be curious for you to be able to gain that knowledge and experience. And then, of course, have the ability to influence people in order to make your point across.
Okay, so the people who play games to get selected, what are the suggestions? And maybe you see the common blunders. You gotta help them win this, and all that upcoming MTOs or management trainees who are trying to win these games, and you have already made it so difficult for them. So you have to give certain tips to all the trainees coming in.
Well, first of all, I would like to manage expectations. Yeah. Because most of the clients that we work with will have about 20 positions for management trainees, maybe slightly less, maybe slightly more. Some companies have 40, 50, but they have 10,000 people applying. Yeah, so per definition, there's a big filter going on from 10,000 to 20. So even when you pass the test, doesn't mean that you get hired, correct? There's still 2 or 3 other steps that you need to pass in order to be hired by a company. In order to be most successful in our games, I think it's very, very important that you're able to put yourself into a workplace, to visualize what it would be in a workplace, to speak to people that are your cousins, your uncles, your parents that have worked in a corporate environment. if you have access to them, or in a university for people that have access to, have done internships.
Yes.
Because our situational judgment test is all around specific scenarios that you encounter in a normal work environment. So I think the best thing that you can do is to actually speak to people that have that experience, or yourself have worked as an intern in these environments, and then visualize yourself how you would respond to these situations. For our cognitive ability test, which is the little mini games as we call them, best way is actually to download an app and play these brain games, because they're very, very similar.
Oh yes.
Ah,
Brain games
there
are very
you are.
similar. Yes,
There you are.
yes. And
So that's the
also-
biggest tip that I can give everybody. Yeah.
Wonderful tip. And also, so these games are not just judging your IQ, but also EQ. Right?
To be honest, we really don't test IQ.
EQ based
So
questions.
so we test people how they will respect, how they would behave in a certain scenario. Yeah, so that is part of the emotional intelligence, or part of specific behaviors that they would display. The other one are just cognitive abilities, which are your innate abilities for problem solving, for being able to do two tasks at the same time, for memory, for mental maths, for inductive reasoning. So those are all relatively cognitive, as I call them, cognitive abilities. But play the brain games, so you can improve yourself.
And also, as you mentioned, that you have, once you start talking to the people who have worked in corporate environment, or let's say internships or jobs done, so they understand what sort of decisions they need to make
Exactly,
when it comes
yeah.
to
So
the situations.
specific teamwork situations, specific
Yeah.
client situations,
Yeah.
specific ethical situations, specific situations around customer service and customer relations, specific situations around how you develop other people, how you coach other people, etc.
Lovely,
etc.
wonderful advice. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so
You're
much for
welcome.
this one. We'll move towards another question, which is about leadership. So you have been a coach, you have been training people as well. And what are the major leadership blunders that you see people make generally?
Well, leadership is my number one favorite topic. Why? Because throughout, and my career is almost now 40 years, so throughout my 40 years, if you ask me what is the single most important element of business success, I would pinpoint it around leadership. And it's not just around corporate success, it's also around country success. Yeah? And I think leadership at the end of the day is the single most important element. And I've seen in those 20 years in Pakistan, I've worked with, I've monitored, I've seen companies' fortunes, both positive as well as negative, even within the same company, within a certain time frame. And I can pinpoint it directly to the quality of the leadership that was there, which is interesting, correct? So I'm absolutely convinced that the quality of leadership is the most important part in success of organizations, teams, as well as, in this case, the country as a whole.
And like, what are the blunders that they're doing generally?
The blunders that they make is that the biggest blunder for leaders is they think they know.
Yeah. Okay.
And not be open to either what's happening around them, not being open to speaking to frontline, understanding what's happening in the market, not being open to ideas that's coming from employees, not being open to what competitors are doing, but thinking that they know it.
So here comes the empowerment thing as well. Like, since you are just not open to, let's say, criticism, or not open to the feedback, would just not allow the team to work as per their brain.
Yeah, and I think the other big mistake that leaders are making is that they try to protect that they're afraid of their own role and job, correct? If you have better team members, you are afraid that they might take over, which is a fallacy, an absolute fallacy. Yeah. So in my experience, I've seen it across the industries, is that your success is dependent on the quality of the people. And if you allow them, if you first of all recruit the best, and then ensure that collectively they deliver, then other doors for you will open up. Yeah. If you're trying to hold on to your seat,
Lovely.
I promise you that you will lose your seat earlier than any other way.
So the other topic is politics in the office, of course, not in the country. And what are your thoughts when it comes to, let's say, it exists? You believe that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Even politics is everywhere, where it's country, family, office, of course.
And how do you handle politics? So young professionals who are watching, you would like to have an advice from you. You have to be very smart emotionally. It's also a slippery slope. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. Because if you're gonna be good at it, you try to overplay your hands, and then that might also end up in failure. Yeah, so I think balancing it is, I think, very important. I think the first and foremost things around office politics is to make sure is that you know how to manage your boss. Yeah, and if your boss is a big supporter of you, then that will then spread to other parts of the organization. Yeah, so I think managing your boss is, I think, one of the most important parts. And managing your boss doesn't mean that you are, how do I say this politely, that you're not praising the boss and just be. I think you get the drift, correct? We call it makhan, by the way.
There you are. So managing your boss is all about trying to solve his problems. Yeah. So it's content related. Yeah. Of course, as part of the content, the relationship is the way that you communicate, the way that you build a connection is also important. But first and foremost, you have to understand what are the problems that my boss have and how can I help him solve it. If I know what the problems are, then I can solve it. If I solve them for him, then I'm a valuable resource. Correct? So I think that's one. The other one is a story. One of I've been very lucky in terms of my career progression in Unilever. I actually was a management trainee that didn't make it. That's a story that I've not told many times recently. So, I was part of the management trainee selection of Unilever when I started after my graduation, and I didn't make the final round. And the recruiter at that time says, "Paul, we thought that you didn't have that you were not strong enough. You didn't have a strong back," as they said it. This is a Dutch expression. But the interesting thing was that the person that was in the round before, who was going to be my boss, said, "I don't really care about this final selection. I still want to recruit him because I've got a job and I need somebody to help me." So I then subsequently started this job reporting to the HR manager of that factory. And lo and behold, then 10 years later, probably in the whole batch of Unilever trainees that started, I was the one that had the fastest career growth. So don't believe it. I think a story that is not just about making management trainee, correct? It's about, and I think one of my success factors, apart from this combination of people insight and business insight, was specifically that I was able to keep so for one of my bosses, every week, I had just a 30-minute meeting. 30 minutes, I said, "Boss, this is what I've done. This is what I'm going to do. Is there anything that you want me to change?" Just that 30-minute check-in.
Very clear communication.
Very clear communication. He knows what to expect. Yeah. I know what he expects. Yeah. Delivering on what you promised. Helping solving the problems of your boss, and then have the normal emotional intelligence to build a relationship in terms of interest that you both share, etc., etc.
So you basically can't take care of everybody else in the office, but you can take care of the communication with your boss.
And
that's
and of course,
right?
your colleagues. Yeah. So the moment that you start knifing your colleagues in the back, they will find out. Yeah. So I think with colleagues, it's all about you support, offer support, yeah? Help others in order for them to progress.
Stop bitching.
Yes, and unfortunately, in Pakistan, we are not very good in being happy about somebody else's success. Correct? We think that success should have been mine rather than yours. And I think
Pakistanis really well.
Huh? I'm living with the Pakistani family, so I'm living with my father-in-law. Not many men live with their father-in-law, correct?
Oh,
so there you are. So yes, I'm completely integrated.
Yeah, that's true. So a lot of people do not really appreciate what they should appreciate, and they're not really happy of the success or
the success of others. Yeah, so it's primarily the success of others. Yeah, so we feel that we should have given that success or that opportunity. But if we are slightly more gracious and grateful to others, I think that would help us.
Okay, so last question, which is about AI. You love the topic, and here we are. AI and gamification, of course, are interrelated. And how has AI changed the way HR works? I want to know it all.
You want to know it all? How long do we have?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah, so I really like to do new things. Yeah, so whether it's to do with HR processes, whether it's to do with technology, and of course now the opportunity that we have with HI is just enormous. Yeah, and again, it's about being curious to see how we can apply, how we can use. Yeah, and so in the last couple of years, we've done a number of things in using AI. So we've helped a company to improve the quality of the performance review using AI. We are now creating AI-generated development plans for people. We are now creating, on the basis of engagement surveys, AI-driven suggestions on what you can do to improve. But the product that I'm currently working on is the most exciting, in which we actually have already launched a beta version of an AI-driven interview chatbot. Yeah, so instead of a HR person calling you and do a 20-minute preliminary interview, we now send you a link with a chatbot, and that has a conversational style. Yeah, so it actually converses with you. So that asks you a question. If they don't give the right answer, or if you give a very short answer, we ask you a follow-up question, etc., etc. So it's like a proper conversation, and then AI will then also assesses the quality of your responses on the basis of a validated database that we have. And the next step is where we actually have a video avatar. So one of my colleagues is
HR?
No, of the interviewer. One of my colleagues is the interviewer, but is now being translated into an avatar.
Okay.
So you see her image, and she's asking you questions, and she responds to your answers.
And this is the AI asking questions.
Yeah. They are AI, and also the responses of the avatar are AI based. So her emotions, the lip syncing, everything is AI based. So it's like a FaceTime call.
Reducing the job opportunities for HR people?
Huh?
You're reducing the job opportunities.
No, what it offers is because which HR person is interested in 20-minute telephone conversation? It's the most boring transactional thing you can do. So what this helps is that work is gone. But as a result, you get candidates in front of you where you can have human interactions that are much more interesting to interact with.
Are you applying this here in Pakistan?
Yes, it's going to go live. It's live with Karachi Electric. It's live with HBL. Wow. And very soon it's going to be live for the HBL MT program.
Wow, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah, so,
and what are the other things or other processes that you have AI'd?
So a lot of the design elements are now around AI, specifically if it's to do with case studies, if it's to do with scenarios, if it's to do with as simple as transforming it from a English language to Urdu, or from Urdu to games are available in Spanish, or Bahasa in Italian.
Your avatar can speak in Urdu?
Yeah, our chatbot can speak in Urdu. Video avatar, not yet. But
Okay,
our
okay.
chatbot speaks Urdu, which is
Yeah.
cool, isn't it?
Very cool. I love talking to ChatGPT in Urdu, and even ChatGPT responds in Punjabi as well.
I've not tested. I can't understand that, so I've not tested
We were
that as of
testing
yet.
it yesterday. That does it really understand Punjabi, and it also responds in Punjabi, and we
That's-
do not really need to,
Isn't-
explain
isn't
anything
that,
else.
Isn't that outrageous?
Very
yeah.
good,
In
very
two,
good.
3 years, and what excites me most is, of course, what's ahead of us. Yeah. So now all these AI agents are coming in. So these interview bots is an AI agent. Yeah. So when you apply, so for HBO cash officer, the process is going to be that you apply on their website. Automatically, an assessment game will be sent to them, specifically focused on cash officer. If you reach a certain score, automatically the chatbot interview will be sent to you. You answer a number of follow-up questions. On the basis of that score, will you then be speaking to an HR person or being put in line for a line manager interview wherever you have applied from?
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's all happening.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot.
What I really want to encourage my HR colleagues in is coming forward with use cases. Yeah. So far the response, again, my curiosity issue, that people have not find it difficult to actually imagine what could happen. Yeah. So I really want people to.
I'm really curious about the generative AI thing that I've been, seeing. Some of the students from GK have produced certain videos of some influencers here in Pakistan, and the generative AI has exactly replicated their audio and the video as well, which sounds dangerous as well, because
Yeah.
influencers are paid to give those testimonials, and now you can just replicate their video and audio, and you're just creating the testimonials for free.
Yeah.
So that is dangerous also.
Yeah,
as well as
dangerous in terms of
exciting.
what to believe, but it also means that all of us, and that's something that's very close to my heart, is that if you don't transform yourself and your own business model, your own skill set every 3 or 4 years, you're going to be outdated. And unfortunately, like you said earlier, that within the country we're not very good in educational videos, educational podcasts. We're not very good as Pakistanis in investing ourselves to continue to learn. But if you don't, we're gonna go walk behind the curve. So I have tried to transform myself every 3 to 4 years. Yeah, so I left the corporate world, became an entrepreneur, then focused on one other things, then started with technology, then started talent games. Now I'm starting on HI. It's a cycle of every 3 or 4 years. And that keeps my mind engaged. It keeps me excited.
You should
keeps
be, I
me
think,
passionate.
creating content on these kind of initiatives when it comes to AI and generative AI. A lot of people should know what's happening,
Absolutely.
and maybe in order to convince in first attempt, a lot of people are not convinced, but once they keep hearing the same thing, they're able to understand and
but
process.
what I really want to do is not so much to consume that content. I want them to just play with it. I want them to play with Sora. I want them to play with Gemini.
Do you want to suggest some brain games?
Or brain games for that matter. But I want them to play with it. I want them to try that. I want them to not use ChatGPT or Copilot just to improve an email. That is too basic for words. Yeah. I want them to think. I want them to ask a prompt in terms of, I'm doing this project. How can I do it better? And then complete context, and I promise you, the information that you get will stimulate a lot of new ideas.
Let's experiment that as well.
Let's experiment.
Any brain game that you want to suggest? Which is your favorite app when it comes to brain games?
My favorite app around brain games is Luminosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it paid?
They've got a free version for a number of games, and then if you want a full set of games, it's a small amount.
Okay, let's play the free version first then.
Exactly. Let's try it out.
So it was wonderful having you, Paul, and I loved the conversation genuinely, and I hope that people are able to learn from this. But before closing the interview, is that any piece of advice that you want to share with young professionals?
With young professionals. Well, I think keeping with the same theme, I think keep being curious, keep asking questions, keep experimenting, keep learning, keep having a growth mindset. Don't fall for don't fall for the
Shortcuts.
no, that's not the word for the shortcuts, but the corporate world, yeah, certainly if they come into the corporate world, has a way to box you in, yeah, and you become into this maze in which you constant. The corporate world, certainly multinationals, have a fantastic way to keep you running in that wheel. Don't get trapped. Yeah.
Which actually diminishes your curiosity. That's what
Exactly.
you're saying, right?
And not only that, it keeps you trapped, it keeps you stopped from experimenting, and never think that you don't have a choice. You always have a
And
choice.
keep playing the brain games. Thank you so much for being here, Paul.